Thanks. Yes, sir, in the back.
How many houses will 150 megawatts provide electricity for?
That's a great question. Yeah, so, I think when we looked at this at one point in time, I would say that most of the communities on the West Coast can be powered by 150 megawatts. So if you look at it from Corner Brook down to Port Bast, that area could definitely be powered by 150 megawatts. The key is, the critical component is that this system doesn't provide continuous 150 megawatts 24 hours a day, right? So it will provide 150 megawatts when the utility needs more power, right? So we'll be like a supplement to what's already there when the communities really need it the most. And so that's a key point, right? So, we can provide 150 megawatts for about 8 to 10 hours a day. Like I said, 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the evening. We can provide 100 megawatts for 20, 25 hours. We can provide 50 megawatts for about 5 days. So we're very flexible, right? So the asset's very flexible, but that's a great question.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's other questions. Hi.
Are there any risk involved with this sort of cavern? Will you have your own 24/7 emergency response team? How do you detect for leaks, that sort of thing?
Yeah, another great question, or multiple questions. Emergency response, yeah, I mean, from that perspective, yes, we would have emergency response planning. That's a part of our project execution philosophy. And depending on the size of the asset and the risks that you have at the asset, and like I said, the risks at this asset are much less than an asset that's running fuel source, right? So everything's inert. You have pressure and you have temperature, and you have to manage the pressure and the temperature and ensure that it stays inside the pipes. That's really important. And so we'll have control systems, emergency shutdown systems, safety systems that will detect any pressure excursions and safely shut down the plant. So that's normal in any design for a utility, for an oil gas plant, for any type of industry that you do sound engineered work on, right? So I spent my 30 years in oil and gas. I said I'm going to spend the last 5 years before I retire in clean energy, and this is much easier to manage, I'll tell you that, than an offshore asset. Much easier to manage. But we will do sound engineering, and we will ensure that the system is safe and has the right monitoring systems, the right shutdown systems. Emergency planning, that's a great question as well, right? So, we would have an incident command system that, if you had an incident at site, we'd have to react to it, and we would ensure that, we bring it to a safe place as soon as possible. If there's anything required outside of that, we would work with the local communities to figure out, is there capacity here? If there's not, we'd have to mitigate that. If there is, great. If we want to build more capacity, we can also work with the communities to build more capacity on, fire systems and whatnot, if that was desired by the communities. But we would engage with the communities before we would make any decision there. But it's a part of our normal project execution plan, basically, and you'll see that as we engage further. Hopefully next year, when we're really talking about the details, we'll engage around how we would manage emergencies. Yeah. Great question. I'm sure there's other burning questions here.
Just one about the wind farm itself. Were the 42 windmills, is it going to be a clear-cut area, or is it going to be kind of just cut around where the windmills itself?
Just cut around where the windmills itself, yeah. No, we wouldn't clear cut. That's just specifically around the wind turbine.
How high are these windmills going to be?
The hub height is about 100 to 120 meters. We're currently in the process of identifying the right turbine. Like, we want to be able to use the ones that are suited for the environment here on the West Coast, right? Obviously, we have a lot of wind, a lot of ice, and so these have to be reliable in those situations. So, yeah, thanks. Yes.
The wind farm and the plant is smack dab in the middle of Moose Management Area 8. So are we going to be restricted from Clam Road and anything in that area?
That's a great question, and I don't think there's any restriction there. I've seen wind farms in Alberta where they're on farmland and there's cows grazing underneath them. So from that perspective,
That's a little bit different. Than
it's a little bit different, yeah. So
you've got
I don't
live
speak
ground.
Pardon me?
You've got live rounds flying around.
So loose season is, yeah, exactly, yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's right. So, we would normally, there would be safety protocols around that, right? We wouldn't have any maintenance technicians in the field during loose season, unless there was a critical issue that we had to deal with, and we would talk all the local communities.
Okay, so the locals would still have access to go hunting there.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, I think so, yeah. And Steve's nodding, he's the guy.
Perfect, perfect. Now, also the same thing with Fishel's River. That's a big salmon river.
Yes.
What happens if that gets contaminated with your brine?
Yeah, so that's another great question, and this is, I'm really happy to be able to answer this question in a great way, because we've looked at that in so much detail, right? So that's the last thing that we want to have happen. And so what's happening from an elevation perspective, on the north side of the Trans-Canada Highway, you have a high elevation, and then you actually go down into where the site would be. And so you have this natural berm, right? So if there's any water that's leakage, and it's only salt water, right? If there's any water leakage on the site itself, it's naturally held within that berm. It will not communicate down to the river.
Okay, perfect.
But Bill, maybe in terms of like some of the safeguards and systems around, monitoring the pipelines and so forth that are typical of that, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so like from a leak detection perspective, all the pipelines will have pressure sensors and flow sensors on them. So if there's any leaks within the pipeline, and the leaks are salt water again, right? The worst thing that you can think of is hydrocarbons and pipelines, right? But this is not that, right?
Yeah.
So we would pick the appropriate metallurgy, right? So the metals, ensure that it doesn't rust. It's insulated effectively. There's pressure transmitters at the right places. They're all being monitored by a central control system that's manned all the time. Any excursions or leaks that are detected would almost instantly show up on the terminals in front of the operators, and they would shut it down. And so, quite well controlled. The brine ponds themselves would have a liner within them, right? So that liner would protect from any seepage into the ground, and that's controlled as well and monitored from a level perspective. And we would design it to ensure that any rain or any runoff, we have that ability to absorb that within the level.
Yeah. So how deep are these pipelines going to be underground?
Whatever the regulatory requirement is, I think it's like 3 meters, maybe something like that. I can't recall exactly, but they're fairly deep underground.
Salt is pretty destructive to soil too.
Yes. Yeah.
You have your spilled salt on a piece of grass and it's dead, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So that's where the leak detection systems go into play, right? And you isolate it and then you repair it, right?
Okay.
But these pipelines are they're not a. I'm trying to think back now. I think these have a coating within them that's corrosion resistant as well, right?
Okay.
So
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to deal with rust?
Yep.
You know what salt does, rust.
Absolutely,
Everything.
yeah, and they would be coated appropriately to
Bill,
deal with
the
those.
pipelines back and forth to the ocean being the varied ones, the on-site, what I'll call the on-site piping for the brine ponds or whatever.
Yeah.
Those would be potentially above ground, is that?
What's the diameter of these pipes? Is it small or are they talking massive?
So the ones that we would pull water from the ocean would be about 24 inches, so 2 feet.
Okay.
Wide. The ones on the site itself are much smaller, right? Because it's basically a distribution system then, right? So you're looking at 4-inch, 8-inch, 12-inch pipelines.
Okay. So regular like inlet,
Yep,
outlet.
exactly.
piping. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, I just
Yes.
wanted to comment and then ask one question. You talked about Hollywood's fuel bill, right?
Yes.
Well, I was the inspector up there for 4 years. I forget what year it was, around 2016 or 2017. It was a bad winter, and their fuel bill was $120 million because they got a gas turbine and 7 different diesels, plus 3 boilers to run, right?
Yes.
And I remember, right, your gas turbine at full load, I think it was 20 megawatt or something that I forget. It's 5,000 meters an hour. That's what they burn.
Yeah. And
That's a lot of fuel.
that's a lot of fuel,
Just
yeah.
like an awareness that that's how much we're paying right now, and that $120 million, they only ran it maybe a total of the year maybe 3 months of that year. So it's not like that's running all year, so that's how we're paying for that, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you're right. It's a substantial amount of money. The other side of it is to your point, right, is that, you know, Newfoundland Hydro are looking at replacing that with another plant, right, and replacing that with public dollars, right? So, you know, a new Holyrood would cost close to $1 billion, essentially, right? So we're private, so we're coming in, we're gonna build this, our investors are gonna invest in this and build it for the province. We'll get the revenue back in our rates, but you won't require that $1 billion injection, right? So that's another key component here, is that this is private power, private investment.
And just like maybe make a comment about, asking you about the boiler production regulations and CSA standards.
Yes.
Because they do exist in this type of underground vessels is what this all comes to be, right? And
Yeah.
When they get heat exchangers and stuff, they're all covered anyway.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a great question as well, because the standards are out there for underground storage, right? Canada does it, they do it in Nova Scotia, they do it in Ontario, they do it in Alberta. Newfoundland's new, but it's not new, right? So it's you know, CSA have standards for below ground storage systems. So the work that we have to do with the government now is to get those regulations set up in the right way so that they can also regulate us effectively as well, right? So ensuring that we can meet the regulations and whatnot. So that's key. It's being done elsewhere, safe, you know, and no issues. The standards are out there. You know, we will conform to those standards in our design.
And then just a comment to those standards that are already enforced there. Like, there's plenty of regulations that talk about pressure relief devices and
Yes.
discharge and safe location, all that for pressure vessels, which one would be on this site, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's standard design, yeah, and safety systems will be integrated, absolutely. Oh, we have to, or we wouldn't be shut down. Yeah.
Just another question on, I don't know if it's on those, go on the kilowatts that you'd be selling back to Hydro and Hydro would be selling back to yourselves. Is there a fixed rate that down the road the facility gets built and all of a sudden, okay, we want more money now, and you will charge more money to Hydro, which will then make our rates all go up again, or you know, is there kind of a fixed rate that you guys are looking at for a kilowatt hour of production?
Yeah, so you're talking about a purchase power agreement, right?
Yeah.
And so we would sign a purchase power agreement with Newfoundland Hydro for a specific rate, right? And you know, that you have to weigh that out based on the capital cost of the project and the economics associated with the project. Obviously, we want to make some money, right? So we have to put, you know, some surplus on that rate. But you know, from our perspective, we can gain that back over a long period of time, right? Because this asset runs for 50 plus years, right? So from that perspective, we're not trying to make a lot of money in 2 years or 10 years. You know, that's spread out over 50.
Yeah, because that's a big consideration, because I know a lot of people in this community, our rates are high and it's only going to start getting higher. You know, if we're getting into a facility like this that we want to have our rates lowered, and all of a sudden in 10 years' time the private entity says, no, we're going to raise it now because we just came into a new agreement with Hydro, and then we're back at paying double, or, you know. Are we going to actually get a decrease in our electric bill bills?
Yeah, and like I said earlier, right? Like I wish I
You could
had
answer
the
that.
power to answer that for you. Like if it were me and I was the politician, I was the premier, I was like, man, yeah, this is a great asset. It can save the province money. Absolutely, it can, right?
Well, is there an opportunity to have a pilot project for this area, maybe?
Well,
Offer this community like free power or monitored power and see how much it would be?
Oh man, you know, well, pilot project. Yeah, we're at the point in time now where we're building the actual project,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we would build that actual project.
But it'll give you a good estimate of how much power it would take to generate a 900 person community.
So it's a great question because it's you know, we can't provide constant power, like I said earlier, right? So we can only provide it when Newfoundland Hydro needs it the most, right? So it's just this peak demand management piece. So we wouldn't be able to provide a community constant power, right? Like, we couldn't do that.
Well, if you said that you could do 24 hours in what, 50 kilowatt
You have 50 megawatts,
Per
or
megawatt?
100 megawatts for 20 odd hours, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it would take 100 megawatts to power this whole community.
Right. And so, you're like, I haven't even thought about that, right? But, you know,
Outside the
there's-
box, they got
Yeah, it's
5
outside
bucks.
the box, yeah, exactly. You know, it's regulated right now, right? So, you know, the utility regulates this and the government regulates this. Where our hope is that, you know, they start privatizing things more, right? So privatizing things more takes the weight off the province from a cash injection perspective. We own up the cash, and you guys should see that in reduction in your rates, we would hope, right? But that's not up to us, right? I mean, that's you know, if you lobby the government and you're advocating for the project in that way, you know, that will support us as well, right? So we're clean energy. We believe we have a solution here. We know we have a solution here to help the province in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Something has to be done to offset the Newfoundland power pricing, you know?
Right. Yeah. Steve?
No, I was just gonna say, I like the idea of a pilot project, and I think one of the ways we could look at the current project is a pilot project, right? And
Yeah.
Bill mentioned, I mean, it's a big dome, we could build up to 20 caverns. The current project would be 1, maybe 2 caverns, right? To generate a certain amount of power, but that's scalable, and if we find it works and it's feasible and province wants more, we can kind of build it up, but this is very much a pilot project to.
Yeah, that's a good way to frame it. Yeah, because it is new, right? It's new for the province, not new to other countries, but it's new to the province. But yeah, great question. Great question. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you had an MOU signed with a company that's looking into producing salt from the brine. Do you have any other MOUs signed currently with any companies or not-for-profits or organizations?
Devin, do we have any others? I don't think we do, no, not yet.
Just salt uptake.
Yeah.
We'd like to sign more salt uptake MOUs.
Yeah, like, I think, you know, part of the work going forward, there's a lot of eyes on this project right now. Nova Scotia Power looking at it quite closely as well. Like, what are these guys doing over here in the West Coast, Newfoundland? That looks really cool. We have the Maritime Island link that connects us, right? So maybe they could send us power as well and store it. We could provide it back to them as well. So that would establish an MOU with Emera and Nova Scotia Power. But with the word is getting out now, like we have a lot of discussions with the government of Newfoundland. We're having discussions with the government of Nova Scotia, the operators of the utilities. So who, you know, there could be more MOUs in the future for sure. Yeah. Yes, sir.
First of all, thanks for coming here.
You're welcome.
Just a prelude to my question. We live in a wonderful part of the world, and we're very fortunate to be living here, given the chaos that's going on elsewhere, with all the lunatics that are on the go. It's easy to be skeptical with so many various ventures that have never come to pass. Do you have any information on other places that have mined this salt? Any parts of North America, anywhere else in the world?
Yes, and we can talk very specific about that if you like, right? It's like I said, it's not new technology. Like it's been around for over 70 years. The reason why it's new here is because we just found a salt dome and we know what we can do with it, basically, right? So I can give you a couple examples, right? So in Louisiana in the US, they have a plant called the McIntosh plant. And so the McIntosh plant is a compressed air energy storage system that's creating power utilizing a salt dome cavern. And so it's been in operation since 1990 with a really, really good safety record and very high reliability asset and facility. So it's been in operation, so you know, from a proven technology perspective, it's been operating for close to 30 years, right? And so with minimal issues. So that's a really good analogy. You look them up online on the website. There's some details on one of our posters down there that talks about the McIntosh plant. And so it's very close, very similar to what we're doing here. The only difference is they actually heat their air. When I talk about the heating the air during expansion, they, instead of capturing that air, that heat in thermal storage, they use natural gas to heat their air, right? Newfoundland doesn't have natural gas, and even if we did have natural gas, we still have a system that we don't need to use natural gas. So the system itself is very safe compared to a hydrocarbon-based system like a Holyrood that's burning diesel all the time, right? So there are no hydrocarbons on site, so there's no flammable gas on site, right? So that mitigates a lot of safety issues right there, basically, right? So that's one analogy. The other one is, and this one's even older, there's a plant in Germany, in Humpdorf, Germany, that's been in operation since 1970, or mid-1970s. Very similar project again. They have a salt dome, they have a compressed air energy storage system built like we're building here, and they've been in operation since well, over 50 years now. Excellent safety record and high reliability again. And I'll also add that Siemens Energy has been involved in both those. So Siemens Energy actually provided the compressors and the expanders and the turbine for Macintosh. And so that's why we've aligned with them, because they have a proven track record and they know what they're doing. So they're the best technology partner to partner with, basically. But great question. Yeah, I mean, it's proven technology, it's used around the world. It's unique because you can only do it well when you have a salt dome available, and they're very rare. Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Somebody else must have a burning question in their minds. Yes, sir.
Do you have a market for the salt that you're gonna remove?
We are very, very close. We are very close. Like Devin said, we have an MOU with what's the name of the company, Devin?
They're called transnational enterprises, and the reason that they're a good MOU for us is because they trade commodities globally, so they're kind of like a middleman for us that can access independent or individual markets that buy salt. So that means we don't need to be an expert in each and every salt market. We got these guys that actually have the distribution and logistics. So an MOU is not an agreement, it's not legally binding, it's just an understanding that says they're interested in the salt that we can produce here and that they'll work with us to find markets. So that's the MOU we have right now. They're a Vancouver-based company, but they have access to markets for salt, and that's the side of the business that they know better than us.
And it's just a road salt.
No, not ours. Since it's such a dense, high purity salt formation within the dome, it can be an industrial or chemical grade salt. So we're actually shifting away from the road salt, and these guys have access to chemical or industrial grade salt, water softeners, things like that.
So you can sell that at a higher dollar.
Well, the more you process it, the
Yep, exactly.
Process.
But that's the beauty of this system, is that because it's so pure,
Yeah.
our processing plant doesn't have to be as extensive as normal processing plants, because we don't have to knock out too much impurities.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, it's easy to process. It's like an analogy that I use is like offshore Newfoundland oil is such a high quality. It trades at a very high margin on the Brent stock exchange. So we're like that, right? We're a very pure salt, and we can get a lot of dollars out of the 1 ton versus a ton of road salt. We'll say.
Have you guys considered using the brine for road work instead of the salt itself?
No, we haven't considered brine for road work, because I'm not sure. Have you heard of any areas that use brine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently it's supposed to be a lot better than road salt.
Okay. Well, I'd like to know. I'd like to learn more.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Any other questions? Lady in the back. You're very welcome. Thanks for coming.
I'm going to take your conversation off the technical. I'm just going to talk a little bit about employment opportunities. Have you guys reached an area in your planning where you would be able to give us a number on how many job opportunities would be available with the construction of your industry?
Yep. yeah, we've got high-level numbers right now. I mean, we'll refine them as we move into the next stage of project development. But from a plan, when you talk about the types of employment opportunities, it's pretty standard compared to any other utility type project, right? So you're going to need, during construction, you're going to need piping experts, pipe fitters, welders, electricians, instrument techs, keep going, carpenters even, right? So from that perspective, it's very broad from a discipline perspective. But we also are introducing new exciting technology to the province as well. It's solution mining techniques and compressed air energy storage. So we want to work with the local colleges as well and be able to describe our needs and grow that capacity here locally as well, right? So getting in the right time, once we really nail down what we need, we would be working with like College North Atlantic and university and talk about new programs to help support the asset itself. Yeah. In regards to numbers, these are, I would call them very high level at this point in time, but on average during construction, so when we start construction in 2028 and we finish in 2029, 2030, on average we'd probably see 300 or 400 people being employed during construction. It might peak at certain points in time based on integration activities and having a lot of things done once, commissioning activities. Might peak to 800 at some point in time, but not for long durations, right? So think about it as 400 people, on average, peaks at 800 for specific times of the project execution. In operation, once we finish commissioning and we hand it over to operations, the operations staff would be, you'd have a small admin building and an office, you would have operators, and you would have maintenance techs on site all the time. Environmental health and safety type people on site all the time. Average about 60 to 70 people operations.
So to keep the plant running, it would basically be skilled trades. You'd need your millwrights and you'd need all of that stuff.
Yeah, so you
Power
have a maintenance
engineers.
team, you have a small maintenance team.
Yeah. More preventative maintenance than anything.
Pardon me?
More preventative maintenance. than
Absolutely, yeah,
operations.
I love preventative maintenance, and that's key.
Yeah.
We would put in those types of programs for sure. But there's also spin-off opportunity, right? So if you had to do instrumentation calibration, right? Your pressure transmitters need to be calibrated. I'm not going to send them to St. John's, right? I'd rather do it here. If the guys have a shop that can do instrument calibration, we do it here, right? Motor winding or anything that's a sustaining project that needs to be built within the plant. Like if you want to run another piece of pipe or whatever, and you need flanges and you need gaskets and all that stuff, that all has to be stocked locally, right? We'll only carry what we call emergency spares, right? We would love to have the community have a shop where we could go and pick up additional components as well. So there's all kinds of spin-offs associated with this, and which would benefit communities around here. What else is on your mind? I know I'm having a beer later.
You said assets 24 times.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Yes?
Do you think you'll be able to get the skill set you need here in Newfoundland, or will you have to build like a temporary work camp and have people come in?
I'm hoping we can get everything we need here. Newfoundland's got a lot of really highly trained people. It's unfortunate a lot of them are working in Alberta. I'd love to bring them home. That's number one. I've got a few of my siblings right there, and I'd love to bring them back as well. So that's key. We can build the capacity as well, right? So when you have oil and gas on the East Coast, they've built a lot of capacity around instrumentation, electrical, industrial type system disciplines. Having that here locally through the community college will be key as well, right? Do we need to beef up? I know, we're talking to College North Atlantic, which is an amazing facility that they have built here over in Stephenville. They're at capacity, right? They can't get enough people to train the people. So they're relying on retirees to train the people. So, if there's any retirees out there in the instrumentation space or in the operation space, it'd be great to be able to bring them in and and expand on the capabilities of the colleges as well, right? So, you know, key is hire local, you know, it's Newfoundland benefits, and that's our number one priority.
And also encourage those smart people who moved away, it's time to come back, we need your skills.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was great questions. We're here for another, how long? Like, we still have time, so ask away. That's what we're here for. We want to hear from you guys. No deep technical engineering questions? Yeah, no, you already got me going in the back there.
We'll talk about what we got.
Yeah.
We can stay around at the posters too, Bill.
Yeah, like we'll just hang around with the posters and we can just have, you know, casual discussions if you want. But like I said, like, we're here to answer your questions. Okay. Well, thank you very much. This has been a great audience, great turnout. We're really, really happy.